and then when you're done,
Stop recording.
stop recording. Will you catch on?
Yes.
Okay?
Okay,
Let me just stay for a couple of minutes. It's fine.
you're welcome to stay.
No, I gotta go.
Okay. We can sign off on your time sheet.
Now, you went through this presentation last time.
I went through capital, yeah. But,
Yeah.
do you have to take roll? Yes, you gotta like do everything, right?
You can
Yeah.
bring a meeting to order and all that good stuff.
Okay. Meeting to order at 10:08. Thank you. And Nick is here, Rita,
I'm here.
Christina. Okay, no, I just got some meetings early. Okay. So I was going to ask for the minutes to be approved. Did you get a chance to see the minutes online? No? Okay, we'll leave for the next meeting. We'll just. Rita, I'll email the minutes to everybody so we can approve them. Maybe we can do it on by email.
Okay.
They're already filed, so that's not a problem. Okay, so didn't you do this presentation last? We can,
I did capital, we didn't go over operating,
Right.
that's what you said you wanted to go over. So
I have questions on capital.
we can go back to it, what do you wanna start with?
Okay.
You know, operating is pretty set, and you can,
Do you wanna do operating first and then go to?
whatever you wanna do, you know.
Well, Rita's gonna be signing out. Rita, what do you prefer?
Well, I mean, can we do a quick overview of this, of the
This is operating,
operating?
yeah, so this.
And then go to, capital?
Right, so this was approved by the Board of Finance last night. It's a 2.3% overall change, year to year. So we're at 12,856, it includes sewers. So if you look on the far right, you'll see.
I'm sorry, it includes what?
The sewer part. So you see on the far right, highlighted in yellow, the overall changes per department. Administration, engineering, I can go to each one, but that's basically salary based, it's a very small budget. Engineering, we had some additional money in outside contractors, that got reduced. And then town buildings, what we had in town buildings was we were paying for the Board of Ed has a maintenance contract now with a property manager for 220L. So in our budget from last year, we were carrying that fee, so it's about $12,000 a month in a management fee because it's a condo, right? So we share the building. We
pay $12,000 a month.
Yeah, it's part of the ownership of the building. It goes into an escrow account, pays for, certain things that have to be paid for.
Okay.
We were paying
I'm sorry, we pay 12,000 per month for what?
well, the building is a condo, right? So you gotta remember, there's other people in the building, right? So the second floor is owned separately than the first floor, right? So it's a shared building. So it's basically, there's a property manager there, we pay the property manager, fees, and then there are certain fees that go into escrow for the building in case it needs a new roof or, sidewalks or other amenities that are necessary.
The total is 12,000 for all.
12,000 a month.
So we weren't paying 12,000 a month, it's just that's the total amount that goes to the escrow.
Right, so we were carrying that on our side because we had bought the building and DOE wasn't in it yet, so in our budget, we had that money set aside. That money is now on the Board of Ed side, so we had to take it out of our budget, so that's why you see a larger reduction in town buildings. That was about $138,000.
Yeah, so the change from 23 to 24 was that building.
Plus that, the 23 to 24 was adding it in and then dropping it back out again, in essence, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just looking at town buildings as it increases over
That's
time.
correct.
There was a jump in 23,
Can I ask you why?
another jump in 24, that was pretty significant.
Why they have a property manager?
Yeah.
The building always had a property manager, the building had a property manager managing that property from the entire time. And it was determined that since, in the BOE had property manager at 39 Locust.
But that was part of the rent.
That's right, well, we don't pay rent now.
Right,
Right,
but
'cause we
that's,
own it.
yeah, but it's 120,000 a year, more, 136,000 more.
In essence, but it was included, it was factored into the overall purchase when we bought the building. So that carrying cost of the property manager was already carried in the cost of when we bought the building and whether it was gonna be cost beneficial to the town.
So it's not a town employee, it's a separate company.
Yes, it is.
And the other co-owner of the building pays $12,000.
They pay as well. Yeah, I think, it's 50-50. So yeah, I don't know what they pay, but I would imagine they pay the same.
And does that pay for the utilities and everything
No,
else?
it's not.
That's ridiculous. Okay,
Just, tell you what it is, so in essence, then the rest of them across the board, they're, we're well below the rate of inflation, I guess we'd call it. Overall, we do track,
Actually, can you go back a second? I'm just kind of looking over time because it's interesting because again, it's not just, I'm not just looking from year to year, but I'm just looking over time, what's happening. So I just want to take a look if you don't mind.
you can look over time, I have it graphed next, if graph is easier for you.
No, I know, but if you don't mind, I just want to absorb a little bit, because again, town buildings took a huge jump. Sewers, which I understand, wow, yeah, continue to take big jumps, which you're gonna get into. Parks have taken a huge jump over time.
I'm not gonna speak of anything 24 before, I'm only speaking the change between 24 and 25. If you're gonna ask me why I went from, one to the next 5 years ago, it's gonna be very difficult to determine.
Well, I guess though, if we're talking about change though, if you're saying, I understand that, but if we're saying, oh, it's change versus last year, but we took a big jump from the year before, I just kind of want to understand that. That's all.
Well, the sewers was all contractual, okay? So from 23 to 24, there was a contract change as far as our garbage hauling and our sludge hauling, things of that nature. So that was a change there. And now we're just looking at the change year over year to the contract itself. And then a little bit, and then that year from 23 to 24, our chemicals took a huge hit as far as percentage increase for the chemicals that we need to actually make permit.
Tiger, maybe I'm confused, but I thought the sewers have a special fund.
They do, but they're still part of my budget, so I
Okay.
keep them overall in the picture and in the mix, just so I know departmentally
Yeah,
as a whole where we are. But yes, there's a complete separate fee associated with the sewer part.
so the sewer charges go to that fund, so they don't come out of the general fund.
No, they,
Okay,
so, and then part of tax,
yeah,
part of the tax collector is in that as well, right? So, cause the tax collector's gotta collect the fee, right? So part of her year is spent collecting the fee for us, so it's not just a tax base, it's a, when she collects that fee and then applies it, so there are certain monies in sewer, when you look at the sewer fund, there's monies that's allocated towards just the tax collector as well. For her part, her role in it.
so the sewer fund covers some of the expenses to run the tax department, like I said, okay.
And then you're gonna go over the transfer station increase.
That's all contractual, so what we had was, last year we were paying $95 a ton for garbage. It was the end of a 5-year contract. We went to a new contract and now we're paying 111. So there was a very large jump, it was about 7,000 tons of garbage, so very large jump in our garbage hauling. We were actually less than our neighbors, so our neighbors are paying more, but we were also, our contract was very low at the time when we got it, so we had 2 5-year contracts, they were both very low and very favorable to the town for the past 10 years. And that last year at 95, no one was below 100, so there was a large jump to then, get us closer to what I would say the going rate is for garbage hauling in and around Fairfield County.
So we're in the mix right now. We're on par. per,
We're less than par, but yeah, we're closer to the mix now than we were before, because we had, like I said, we had a very favorable contract for about 5 years for the town, so that's the market increase, and then our bulky waste, and our recycling are going out to bid, at the end of this year. We had to add in monies, because we know that they're gonna go up, we don't know what they're going to be. So come June 30, we're gonna have to be out to bid, and at that point in time, we'll know what those numbers will be. We're trying to get all of our contracts aligned, they were on half year, off a half year, so we're trying to get them all aligned, so that when we come back each year for a budget, we know exactly what it is. Right now, we're speculating what the change will be, so we added in $10,000 per line for those.
so the 8.3 includes what you're projecting the recycling and bulk waste to be as well?
Because we have to project on what it might be.
Yeah, no, I know, I understand that. That's just that's a question. So it's not gonna go up again if we're wrong, right?
It might go up if I'm wrong, absolutely. I haven't gotten a bid yet, so I can't tell you that I'm gonna be right.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. It's an estimate. And it's included in there. That's what I mean.
That's correct. The estimate is included. The estimate of what we think is going to be it is included. But,
Okay, got it. That's all I was asking.
right, but that's
And we
not.
might be wrong, we might be over, we might be under.
Correct. We're
Okay.
hoping we're to the good, but we don't know that.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, so that takes up the rest of the changes on the transfer station are nominal or are actually decreasing. So I got a little bit in salaries just because we got I have a hit on increasing the guys part of their contract. But so that goes up by 3,000, but then I've got lowered 401A contribution. I took $5,000 out of hazardous waste day, took $1,000 out of our mobile equipment repairs, took $6,000 out of electricity that's based on what our usage is, and then another $1,000 out of uniforms and equipment. So try to soften the blow across the board. So if I take garbage, hauling, recycling, and the outside bulky waste out, I'm actually at a negative, because those three contracts combined together are $160,000 positive, and so I'd be at 14 negative, because right now I'm at $146,000 difference. So the difference in those three contracts is making up that entire thing. That it's equivalent to $160,000 in increases.
And then in terms of administration, what is that increase?
Strictly salaries. This is Christie and myself. So there's just a small amount of salary increase there. The majority of it, that's it. There's nothing else in that budget per se. That budget is
Which is contractual salary increases.
Contractual for Christie, yeah. For me, it's not. We follow whatever the DPW gets. The DPW will be under contract this coming year. So typically whatever the DPW gets is what the town employees get.
Well, what about the rest of the department? Aren't they included in that?
In administration, it's just Christie and myself, as far as salaries. Engineering has Maria and Joe.
Okay,
Highway has the 26 guys from Highway, and Parks has, they're 13.
Okay. Thank you.
So, no problem. So, that's it right there.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So. I don't know if there's anything else on any.
No, those are just ones that stood out to me. So thank you for explaining.
Yeah, that's fine. That's the reason why I put this up, so you can see the trend. But if you look at the trend overall, so I have it graphed out. That bold red graph, that's actually inflation. And the blue line below it, that's our highway department. That's our largest department. So our highway department is actually trending just below, over the past 15 years, just below inflation. And everyone else is trending well below inflation. In that regard.
I think considering inflation 2.3% overall increase that you had in the previous slide is pretty good.
Thank you. So like I said, so I can go back through each department if you want, or we can go to capital, capital's
No,
Unless you
go
have-
ahead.
you got it.
No,
You just wanna go to you just wanna go to capital, or you wanna go through each department? What do you wanna do? It's totally up to you.
each department, just an overview. I just want Rita to be able to get as much of it as possible.
Okay, alright. So so, as it shakes out overall, our salaries make up just less than 50%. And the net change year over year is actually to the negative, so as far as the overall pie. So, and if, but the majority, if you look at it, it's about 98% of our budget is non-discretionary. It's either set in salaries, utilities, or contracts. And I broke out a couple of the larger numbers in there, tree service, what have you, road maintenance, things of that nature, just to show them, but overall, it's about 99% is contractually based or, non-discretionary, so to speak. If you went to go do something and you wanted to make a policy change, there would be a lot of a reduction in service. So if you want to make a cut, there's basically a reduction in service at that point in time, depending upon what it might be.
And Tiger, we talked about this before. Do you think you have enough staff to appropriately service the town? I know that, we don't want people working 70-hour weeks, and I know that was an issue that had come up, so I wanted to find out from you what you think.
You're right, we're looking at the highway department. We've been asked to take a look at the highway department and see based upon our overtime use, but our initial read is that like for a snowstorm, everybody comes in for a snowstorm, right? So it's not just, the additional one-man hire doesn't necessarily help us per se. Some of the overtime costs that are planned, say Saturday garbage or sweeping, we sweep the downtown. We can only sweep the downtown at about 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning because it gets too busy. So we have to do the downtown. We do the downtown once a week, because if we don't do the downtown once a week, we start to hear complaints about the way the downtown looks. We sweep the rest of the town during the day, so we can go around and do that during the day. But the downtown, we do once a week in the mornings. And then we have Saturday garbage. So the thought is that, would there be a positive break if we had an additional employee, say that would offset those overtime costs? And we're looking at that. The only place where we can use a person is in my department, either in engineering or administration.
That's really what I'm referring to.
That's the only one, and we'll come to that determination. At present, my staff doesn't want to hire anyone else because we have a great dynamic, and we're afraid that if we hire someone and it goes south, the dynamic will change. But within the next year or so, probably the next budget cycle, we're gonna have to have somebody specifically to help offset some of my time.
Rita, we asked the same question in the Board of Finance, and at the time,
You get the same answer.
yeah, same answer.
That's
So
good.
we were happy, didn't feel the need to add anybody.
But yeah, it is, we are one down overall from where we were. So we had historically 5 in the department, in between administration and engineering. We have 4 currently. And the workload is quite large, but we're able to manage at present. But I think, within the next year or so, we might have to make a change.
But going back to the overtime
Sure.
in dollars, how much is it that we're running in overtime now?
The highway department itself,
Yeah.
highway department runs around $350,000 to $400,000 a year in overtime. We don't budget for storms, so that includes the storm itself. We have $308,000, I believe it is, in the overtime budget, and then historically, we go back to the Board of Finance for additional monies. Depending upon the storms this year, the unfortunate thing is, while it didn't snow much, it snowed at all the wrong times. So it snowed on a Saturday, snowed on a Sunday. Sunday's double time, Saturday's time and a half. Snows on a holiday, those kind of things. We had very rarely times when it was snowing, say on a Thursday, when everybody was being paid normal time for 8 hours.
Do you need everybody in?
Yes, predominantly. The way it's structured and the way our routes are set up, we need everyone in to take care of it. We have 13 routes in town. So we have 13 trucks out, plus trucks for the downtown, trucks for parking lots. So we do all the parking lots except for the schools, right? The parks do the schools and the parks take care of the sidewalks. We do every other parking lot. and then 125 miles of road. So, yeah, we bring guys in at times to pre-treat or to hit areas that are of concern. If we know that there's a bifurcation in the town, meaning that the northern end is cold and the southern end is dry, we'll come in and take care of the northern end. We don't need everybody
Yeah.
to do that. But during a storm event, yeah.
So but how are you budgeting? Because we only had a couple of storms this year. How are we budgeting? You know, number one, like if there were more storms, I would imagine we'd have a lot more overtime.
That's correct.
So
But we don't budget our storms, so we don't budget, we've been asked by the Board of Finance for 2 decades now not to budget for storms. So when we have problems and we can't manage and keep the storms within our typical overtime, we come back and ask for additional funds.
Right.
So this year, we'll be having to ask for some additional funds since we're running light. And normally we have monies that come from the railroad account, it's called the railroad offset. So the work that we do with the railroad for day-to-day maintenance and then for plowing and salting, things of that nature, come out of the railroad account. The unfortunate thing is the railroad fund is doesn't have enough money in it to sustain the transfer of funds to our department. So we're actually having to ask from the town proper to take
Who
it.
funds the railroad account?
Putting funds in.
Who funds it?
That's funded through permits, so that's
Oh,
used to the line.
Okay, it's not the railroad company.
No, not at all. We're actually, the state owns it, but we're mandated to maintain the lots and the building. And the way you do that is you use that through fees, right? So
Got it.
through permit fees. But through COVID, fees were very low or we weren't actually accepting fees. We were allowing people to carry their permit longer. So that drew down that account to the point where we don't have enough money to cover that expense. So we're actually having to build that account back up again, and then we can get back to that point of where some of our fees are associated with the railroad
Okay.
or offset by the railroad. I should say.
And Tiger, what is your average, like how many hours a week are you working on average right now?
70,
You're working 70 hours a week.
so yeah.
Do we think that is sustainable? I mean, I don't, or humane?
Well, I've been doing it for a while. I would like it to be reduced a little bit, but that would be the additional individual. So we'll see how that goes.
Fortunately, do it in the sport side.
Right. I
You
didn't
didn't
ask.
You didn't ask for it, so you can't have it this year.
Right.
I know, you gotta ask. I know, we talked about it, Rita, we have talked about it, so it's not like.
No,
I know this is, it's not just this year, it's the year before too.
Yeah.
And it's not just that, it's not just that I think that this is not appropriate to do to a person. I also think if something no offense, but God forbid something happened to Tiger, we were really it's risky. We're at a huge loss. I don't think it's responsible.
But what I want to add to what Rita's saying is that we can do something about it to alleviate the load. I think there were a lot of things that were added by the prior first selectman that should not have been his responsibility. And I think you should look at his schedule and see how we can bring it in so he can do his work without feeling like he's drowning.
I have to know what those were, because I don't remember before and after.
Right. Well, I was in charge of land use departments for.
Oh, yeah, you're not, that we don't have anyone.
So that's been taken off.
Yeah.
That's been taken off the
Yeah.
thing.
It would have been 140.
But
Yeah.
So any other questions on admin? You wanna go to engineering or how you wanna keep rolling?
Keep going.
The engineering is a decrease overall, and this was due to a decrease in part-time salaries. We were carrying one individual for certain work to do at the transfer station and for the sewer plant itself, mostly around stickers, the permits for the transfer station and the sewer use fees, calculation of sewer use fees. So we dropped that amount down markedly. So now the department overall is a decrease for this year over year. That was $14,000 change to the good. It was a $25,000 line at town 11. Any other questions on engineering? The next is town buildings, as we mentioned, it's an overall decrease. It's 1338. So the drivers that we always have year over year are for our service contracts and our outside contractors. This year, this year we'll be ending the contracts that we had. They were 3 and 5 year contracts. And we'll be going back out to bid, so we've added some money to knowing that we'll probably, for our cleaning contract, and for our service contracts, we'll probably be looking at a slight bump in those costs. So,
I don't understand this. I'm sorry. It says. So the request, it's less, but then it's an increase in salary items and increase in.
well, I had those there. This is the bottom 2 lines. I didn't get to change this slide. Sorry, so it's actually a decrease in the service contracts because it was an increase overall because we were keeping it flat. But once I took that money out from the Board of Ed, it's a decrease in the service contracts. So I need to change that line. I didn't get a chance to change this slide from the Board of Finance to now.
So where is that expense for the Board of Ed? In their
It's in the
budget?
Board of Ed.
Yeah, and now we're
Okay.
This was our presentation, see that number has come down.
Right.
Yes.
Change the number. I didn't change the verbiage.
This is right. It's all about, let's talk about one pair of pants, 2 pockets and 1 pair of pants. The budget didn't go down, it just wasn't on the
It
average.
shouldn't be. Yeah.
It shifted.
That's all, but it's on the side that it should be on.
Yeah.
At present, we should, we were paying, they were reimbursing us, it was a little awkward, so now it's on their side and they pay it, fine. Any other kind of questions on building?
So I'm sorry. So that was moved over, which makes sense. So, but that budget, the budget aside from that, did that go up or down? Aside, if you take out,
If I take that out.
if you take out the school stuff,
That's
did it go
correct.
up or down versus last year?
The budget went up slightly, so I had a very large change in our electricity based upon usage, so that went down by about 40,000, but then again, I had an increase in my contracts, I had a change in my salaries. What we did on the salary side is that we switched individuals. We had an individual working at Waveney, who was actually trained as a carpenter. We took him over onto the building side, and we took our building maintenance gentleman and put him over at Waveney to take care of Waveney for events and, general cleaning of Waveney. That delta is the change in salaries predominantly, and then the contractual. This is for Bill and for Anna, for our superintendent and for his assistant. And Anna's part of the time out union. She has a contractual number that's associated with her salary. So we had a couple movements here and there.
So where is that in the budget?
What?
The town superintendent.
The
And,
building superintendent is in this budget,
okay,
so those are. we have
in
three
yours, Department of Public Works.
In it, yeah,
Okay,
town buildings, so Bill works for me.
Yeah.
Right, so his salary is included in this budget, so it's Bill, Anna, and Butch are the 3 in this budget.
Okay.
For the 3 salaries.
Okay.
Okay. The next is the highway department, it's up $84,000. What we did for highway was we basically just took the increase in salary line for the railroad offset and made it part of our budget instead of looking to take it from the railroad itself. That's a change in overtime of about $76,000. And then we had a change in our road maintenance, our de-icing products. Our de-icing products went up, salt went up predominantly last year, a very marked change for salt. And then for our liquid, that went up a very small amount, but salt itself had been decreasing year over year for several years in a row. We couldn't understand why the material was costing us less. And then I think Morton figured out that they should be having their numbers go north instead of south. And we had a change in that as well. And then we have a change in we have a CHP unit at the highway department. And
what is
that's
that unit?
combined heat and power unit, so that takes natural gas, converts it into electricity. And then there's a spillover of heat, so the heat is spilled back into our heating system to help us offset some of our heating costs during the year, during the winter, and then it's actually like a large generator, right? So the generator knocks off the top of our electrical demand, so it knocks down some of the demand charges that we have, especially when we're working 24/7 during a storm. And then we added a line for cemetery maintenance,
Layout.
layout.
Not including Maple.
Yes, sorry, we're looking at Maple Street, the Maple Street Cemetery as well. We had 11, that would make 12.
So this assumes that,
Right now, I have a resident taking care of that property, you know, a resident is actually managing that property, someone who lives in a condo complex above has been managing it for us, and then we. In essence, supplement their work, like if she's got things that we need to pick up, we'll pick up the brush, we'll pick up certain other things for her that she can't, but she's been maintaining the property at present to a very nice. Yeah, she's been doing a very nice job with it. I'm sorry, Rita, you had a question?
yeah, we were talking before, this is where the overtime for plowing and all that stuff goes into, right? So when you look back, if we look back at the previous years, that overtime that eventually has to get taken care of because of plowing, et cetera, that gets adjusted, right? When you look back, like that gets included, yes or no?
It's included, so it's in the numbers, yes.
It is, so then from like the last couple of years, things have been pretty mild.
Well, they have, yes, they have. So what happens too is if you don't see, okay, is last year fiscal 23 was $363,000. That didn't include the railroad offset, and that was strictly what it was. We had a mild winter, okay, overall. The year before was 330, but what's not included in there was the actual change with the railroad offset of, I believe it was at that time 52,500. So in essence, the overtime budget at that point was $382,000, $383,000. Same exact thing for fiscal 21, only in fiscal 21, we had a storm that was about $57,000 that was offset by FEMA. So that's not included in here either, so that number overall is about $380,000, $400,000.
You know what, Tiger, it's probably, Rita, you're bringing up something good, maybe when Ann gets back, we can talk about in that railroad fund, maybe breaking out what it's been used for, is that, I haven't seen that.
That's in there.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's specifically like overtime, so if you look at the railroad
It
fund,
says railroad.
you know, so I guess, just so we all can, because I think that's a good point, I mean, you know. You can't add it to the budget, because it's a different fund and it's not taxpayer, you know, it's not a taxpayer funded line, but at least we can kind of, you know.
Yeah, it comes out as a journal entry, so
Right.
that's so.
Yeah.
When it's a journal entry, you don't even see it, it's behind the scenes, so
Right.
our overtime looks understated. Because the journal entry charges it to the railroad, right, so she started to put in a railroad offset line in here to try to show the difference between the two.
Right.
But it's still a little awkward.
So that 300,000 really is the storms then, because it comes from the railroad offset.
Well, some of the overtime in there is storms, that's correct. But if the railroad offset just offsets some of our costs overall, so whatever our overtime is for the year, that railroad offsets some of our costs overall for overtime.
Does it go to zero every year,
What?
the railroad fund?
No,
And then,
No, it's like the general fund, but it's just related to the.
Right.
railroad stuff, so whatever's in there, you know, if we use it, it gets drawn down, you know, you could theoretically draw it down to zero, but it has to be used.
right, yeah, by
It's not a
state,
zero-based budget, it's a reserve fund.
right, and the state actually doesn't really want us to draw it to zero, they want us to use it, but they also. There are other larger maintenance items that are supposed to be taken out of there, so, you know, paving of the lot. You
Right.
know, that's gotta be taken out of there, so you've gotta have monies in reserve in order to pay that, you know, cause you wouldn't be able to get that in 1 year. You wouldn't want your permits to go up and down just to make up for the fact that you had to pave your parking lot, right? So you have to then save some money over time and then be able to,
but there must be a cap on how much you can take out for storms so that doesn't happen.
we only take out, that's why we have it set. So we did a calculation as to how much money we typically spend at the railroad. And that's the justification of the number, yeah, so we don't ask for anything more than that number. It
Okay,
was $52,500 for about 10 years, okay? We had never made an adjustment for the fact that our salaries increase, you know, the guys, oh, you know, their numbers increase, so I said, well, we're not at 52,005 anymore, so I did a recalculation several years ago, came to 67,6, I believe it is. And that was the number that we carried for a couple of years, because rightly so, they get, you know, their money goes up, it's the same amount of hours, so to speak, their money goes up, it should be more. So then the thought was that annually, as they get their salary bump, whatever their salary bump is, then we would make a commensurate bump in the overtime to match it up so that the hours would remain the same, because the unit price of, or the per fee per dollar would change, you know, their hourly rate changes. So that's why we made that change several years ago, and we'll make changes as we go forward.
Can I ask you just a general question about the slide? When you have an operating request and you see that has increased, is that based on actual? Or is that based on the budgeted
It's
amount?
based on the budget amount. So we're asking, because I have to go budget to budget, right? But I look at past 5 years actual, then I take the 3 in the middle, knock out the high, knock out the low, and take the 3 in the middle and see exactly what that is, try to take out the anomalies and see where we're trending overall. And then compare that also to what's happening globally, like economically, right, as far as whether or not, you know, we're having problems with materials, the materials are costing more, things of that nature, and then make an adjustment from that as well. But the
So we're not
overall,
really doing zero based budgeting.
we bring it back, it's tough to bring it back down to 0 and then rebuild, to be honest, you know, based upon the number of data we have, you know, that'd be a very difficult, you know.
But that can be done through an audit. I mean, Anne should be able to pull up what the.
I can pull up what we're spending, you know, and then I'm basing it off of what we're spending.
Mhm.
So, you know, and then we look at what we're spending it on and then realize that none of our costs are decreasing, right? So, and in essence, the majority of the things that we have are increasing, right? So fleet maintenance, our fleet isn't going down, our fleet is, you know, we've been adding vehicles, right? And I've been trying to keep that number flat, but I'm adding vehicles, and then the cost to maintain them is actually increasing, you know, cost of oil, whether filters, whatever it might be, all those are increasing. So it's a difficult thing to bring it back down. We know exactly what it takes to run the department, so in essence, it is a 0, but it's not, you know, per se.
It's not.
I've done a lot of research on it, and I've read it, and it's 2 ways to do it, you know. I've done a lot of research on it, you know, for me to try to build it back from 0 again, you know, there's pluses and minuses to that, you know. But overall, we're looking at what our trends are, and then we're constantly looking at where we can save money. You know, because our budget is always constrained, it's always constrained.
But the reality is that when you budget based on a previous budget over the years, every year you're assuming that things could, you know, go a little higher, so you're bumping up the budget a little more, and by the end of, you know, a couple of years, you have.
That's not it, cause I don't increase it unless I'm showing that I'm being forced to, where I've got what I call a stressor. If my budget's not moving, and I'm continually constantly underspending, then I will drop that budget down because I'm constantly underspending on that line. If I'm constantly overspending on that line, or I've got stressors on that line, then I'll look to increase that line because of the stressors that we have. So in essence, we are looking back, you know, we're looking at exactly what we spent and why. And then if I have to make an adjustment, because that's the reason why we're able to, you know, it's only 2.24%, right? And with an $85,000 hit on overtime, which is, it's 76,000 of it is not necessarily related to us because it's not covered in the railroad. So overall, I'd be closer to 0.
Okay,
Well,
so take it just one step further. If you have budgeted, let's say 250,000, and you only spend 215,000 out of it, the balance goes back or remains in the general fund, correct?
we don't get it.
At the end of the year.
Yes.
My lines get zeroed out. I got nothing, no carryover.
Okay, because our accounts have been grown in terms of how much money we tax that's not spent. And it has grown to $30 million plus that we have in reserves.
Well, now we don't have, in the last 2 budget cycles, they've been drawing that down.
Yes,
Although it's
yes.
gonna, we just did a bond offering, so that's gonna come back. A
Yes.
little bit higher, you know, to repay what was drawn down.
Yes.
But yeah, so yes, and it was a little high, and
So-
there were some reasons that Board of Finance had for. Cause I had the same issues that you had, but in talking to Todd, there were some reasons for a couple of years ago that they were building that up. There were some concerns at the
Yes.
state level that they were
Yes.
trying to prepare for.
Yes,
I think some of those
teachers
concerns.
retirement. That's
Excuse
why.
me, yes, and so he's communicated that, so
Okay.
so that is why that was building, and so they can draw it down, but I can tell you, just having gone through the Moody's review.
Mhm.
They were looking at our general fund reserves, and now we have to be better about pulling all the reserves from all the different pockets and highlighting that a little bit better going forward, but Connecticut, because we're so reliant on property taxes
Yeah.
we have fewer reserves than other state municipalities,
Mhm.
and they do not adjust their thinking for the way Connecticut runs its municipalities, and so they noted in our Moody's review, the low level of reserves. We
Because
talked
they
about-
have been coming down.
No, in general, they wanna see like 30 to 60%, which is insane, but yeah, so which we were always told 10, I mean, you and I are in the
Right,
world
yes.
that we always heard 10.
Yeah.
That's not really how Moody's is looking at it. So anymore, I guess they want a higher level, we still got a AAA, so like, I'm like, we still got our AAA, but, I think we have to sort of think through how we present, I mean, I think we're still conservative budgeters, so they're gonna let it slide, but they noted it in the Moody's review.
Well, this.
And it sold remarkably well, so we had a 3.02% yield to maturity on our bonds, which is a good rate.
Mhm.
So, we sold well, it's explainable, and I think if people dig into financials, they understand it, but I wouldn't look to the general fund, cutting it back significantly.
No, but I just wanted everyone to be aware of that situation that it kept growing. And the fact that if you have a budgeted number, what happens to the excess amount? It goes to the general fund and reserves, but you're still carrying that number year after year and increasing it. That's where.
Well, no, they draw it every year, because you guys, I mean, at the end of the year, after the budget goes to you guys, it comes back to the Board of Finance,
Mhm.
where they're setting the mill rate, and at that time, they decide how much of the general fund reserves they wanna draw down to help offset the tax increases, and so that's what they've been doing every year. Now, the 98.5% collection rate returns some of that, but they're looking at that reserve number every year after you guys do your budget.
She's looking at the fact that we had an inflated budget, we inflate the budget further, that's all. Last year, all
I don't
in,
mean it derogatorily,
last year, all in, from budget to actual,
yeah,
we had $24,000 left out of 12.5 million, I had 24 grand left. I can sneeze and spit.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I
So,
no, I
to be honest
understand.
with you, but she knows, I'm.
Yeah, I just signed a plow or something that just caught on fire.
Exactly, back
That's
$50,000.
I was like, geez,
No, I understand that.
goddamn rats or mice.
But during Kevin's administration, I know that he hired employees out of the norm and it got absorbed by different departments. And my concern is if the department can absorb an unexpected employee part-time out of a group of budgets, then there's some fat in the budget that shouldn't be there.
Well, when one of the individuals was hired, there was no fat, we actually had to cut other things to make that work.
Yeah. And Christine, I did a line item review, I mean, Tiger can, before it even went to the Board of Finance.
I know.
I went through a line item review, now,
She cut me by $250 in my transfer station. Just so you know, one line down, I was like $250, I'm like, okay.
but I can tell you that some of those hires, I mean. We are now utilizing some of those hires for multiple things, I mean,
I understand what you're saying.
Now, I mean, we can't get people to do certain things, and some of those hires are doing
Right,
alternate tasks that, so I mean, cause, yeah.
Yeah, but I understand but we don't do it that way, so I look at, like I said, I look at what our past expenditures are, where our stressors are. And then adjust every year accordingly, each line, so then each line gets scrutinized across the board. As to where they are, where they're trending, and what we're seeing,
I'm not looking over your
No,
shoulder,
it's
you're in the
fine.
budget, so I have to ask.
No, it's fine, no, but like I said, last year we had $24,000 left. That was it, across the board from all the accounts, all the budgets, so I can't get any closer than that. Yeah,
If it gets more budget approved, because it's spent it, even though it is a building on the prior year budget, that I
Right.
said, the excess goes to the general fund, and it helps us then later offset.
Except that in cases like the unexpected hires that took place, you have room in the budget to just take it without cutting anything out. That's my concern.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, that doesn't just happen, right, there's scrutiny.
It depends who the first selectman is.
now, it's a new sheriff in town.
Yes, exactly.
The, anything else on highway? The next is, transfer station, we talked a little bit about the transfer station. It's $146,000 change, 8.3%. And again, there's 85,000 of it is for garbage hauling itself. Year over year, I've got $50,000 in there for the bulky waste, and 25 for recycling. Those are the two plug numbers that I have that where we think we're gonna trend. Because the numbers are trending upwards, unfortunately, for recycling and for our bulky waste. Bulky waste is debris and construction debris. So you got construction debris and then leafy debris like trees, things of that nature, brush. And they're basically we're charged pretty much the same amount of money going out the door for that. But then we also charge for people coming in. So what you don't see here is there's revenue side to the transfer station as well. And we try to match the fact that what we're being charged to take our garbage away, we try to charge the people who are bringing it in, right? So the haulers that come in. So last year we were at $94.50 for us to get rid of it, right? To get rid of it per ton, and we were charging 95 for them to tip on our floor. So it was a 50-cent difference, and we went to 100 to have a little bit of difference in there just to try to offset some of the overhead that we had.
Right.
Now we're at 111, the selectmen have just approved going to either matching at 111 or going to 115. So we'll be charging the haulers coming in 115 as of July 1st. So that we'll be a little bit to the good again, so we won't be in the red. So as our bulky waste, as our garbage hauling increases, so does our fee associated with it. The same thing happens on the residential side. We'll be looking at our sticker fee to increase our sticker fee. We were asked by the Board of Finance to take a look at that. Right now, people pay $45 if you don't have a hauler, $75 if you do. It's costing us $165 a year for a person who doesn't have a residential hauler to gather their garbage and ship it out, and we're charging them $75. So there should be a change there to make up that difference, right? It used to be 90 and 40, about 135, and we were paying 75, and it's a little bit less. Now it's 165, and you're still paying 75. So we've been asked to take a look at that difference. And we don't think that we should charge the person who has a hauler, because $45 is basically, they just want to come to the station, dump off some things that they might have at their house. And for $45 a year, I think it's not a bargain, but it's certainly, I don't think we should change it. We should be charging that, because they're already paying their hauler to bring their garbage here. So then they're already paying that fee that we charge to dump on the floor.
And the hauler will, let's be honest, the hauler's gonna charge all the residents a higher fee, because we're charging them a higher fee, so they're gonna pay more.
The moment we go up, they're gonna, so we think that portion of it should, at the $75, we should. There's about 2,000 stickers that come out for people who don't have a hauler. So we're doing that delta now, we'll come back to the Board of Finance and give them an overview on that, and then go back to the Board of Selectmen, because they approve the fee.
What do you charge the Paladino, for example, the sewage?
That's
What's that?
$105. It's $105 per 1,000 gallons. That's on the super side.
Yeah.
Right,
Not
So
the
that's-
transfer
right.
station.
That gets set by the WPCA, which is set by the Board of Finance, and then it goes back to be ratified by the Board of Selectmen.
And that is a separate, okay, well, that's revenue to the town.
That's revenue to the sewer district. So that
Okay.
goes to the sewer fund strictly.
Oh, it does?
Yes, it
Okay.
does. Right, and that actually helps us grow that fund. So we have a major maintenance fund with the sewer department. Those go in. It's a split on the septic fees. 85% goes into the major maintenance fund, 15 goes into offset operating. So it's split every year accordingly. That was determined a number of years ago, but we just made a one-time increase from 100 to 105 to last year, the year before.
Mhm.
And we are right now nestled in between the other plants that are around us, one's at 100, one's at 110, we're at 105. If we go further, the fear is that they don't have to come here, right? They have to prove that that the sludge originated in your can. You sign it. If you have a septic, you sign it, the sheet, then it comes to us. But they don't have to come here, so they can go someplace else and dump it if it was cheaper, right? So I don't wanna lose $400,000 in revenue
Mhm.
by charging too much. So there's an offset there. The Board of Finance doesn't want us to either. The Board of Finance wants us to stay in the sweet spot where
Is it competitive with other towns?
it's, yeah, we're, like I said.
He always puts together a list of comparables, so we know where that, like,
We're
the
not-
highest and the lowest.
We're nestled in between 2 towns at 100 and 110, we're at 105, and
Okay.
I'm comfortable with 105. I feel if we start going a little bit higher, people will go elsewhere,
Understood.
right? And then we lose the revenue, right? So why not try, I'd rather keep the revenue with it, Any further questions on the transfer station?
We are on single stream recycle, right?
We are by state mandate, that's correct. That's a state rule.
Which is
Okay.
sort of not like recycling at all.
Yeah,
Okay.
so no separation.
No separation. Right. We,
Thank you.
yeah, if you philosophically, you should be separated, that's my feeling, right? By permit, it's a single stream, so I would like to see it separate out glass, see it separate out cardboard.
Yeah,
Problem is everything that's coming into us from the haulers, since they're picking up residentially, is all combined, right? My town is combined, I dump it into one big toter, and they pick it up once every 2 weeks. The municipality takes care of that, but yeah, we should, but that's gotta start at the state level and then trickle down to the towns.
are they prohibiting the towns from selling cardboard or?
It's not prohibiting us, but it's saying that we're supposed to collect at a single stream, and I can't mandate back to have the haulers then start to do
I see.
multiple streams.
Okay,
Right, the state's gotta say it's not working, right, and that they should go.
so then why do you have the different bins at the transfer station, just cardboard and then garbage and then?
Try to help people out just to,
Psychologically,
yes.
Dr. Tiger. Gosh.
Things working there.
We used to, but to be fair, it probably was set up years ago,
It
when
was
we
set
actually
when we
did.
Yes, we
Multi-bins.
But then the state changed it, so, I mean,
But I don't wanna change back.
well, I know, and
Yeah.
because otherwise then it's a pain, you're constantly modifying your transfer station,
Yeah.
so just, yeah.
So we don't wanna transfer back, and we're feeling that eventually they're gonna go back to the other way. You sort everything, when it comes into your house, and you can sort it when it leaves. You sort everything when you put it away in your cabinets, right, your cupboards, you just don't single stream it, throw all in one cupboard. Yeah, you have different areas for everything, you sort your plates, you sort your bowls, your knives, forks, spoons, why wouldn't we do our recycling? Exact same thing, I don't understand it.
I've been sorting it every
You don't have
day,
to.
it's like,
We all have been,
Right.
it's just everything.
I still, I sort mine, I clean mine, I sort it. I do it, I clean everything, I sort it, and then I put it in one big bin, it's awful, I mean, it's literally.
And it's for no, and they're not.
And for no reason, it's driving Robin Bates Mason crazy, so
I know.
hopefully I have confidence, Robin will fix this problem.
At least the people, if they're at least developing a habit, then when it does happen, it won't be huge.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, I could see glass coming out, and there is a big surge now for glass to be removed, because they're finding other alternatives for glass. Right, so they're thinking about putting it back into pavement and putting it into concrete, they actually have concrete mixes that have it. So they're looking at doing all those things and finding out that concrete mix actually with glass actually comes to strength faster than normal concrete mix, which is interesting, but they've got it in the market, so there are certain places that are already separating and then creating a market. Once then the market will drive, right? And then the market will say, okay, we want to see the commodity, but right now it's a market-based item. So we'll see.
okay, let's not slow you
I was
down.
gonna say, I'm like, we could be here for days learning all the new exciting things.
So the next one is parks, but I don't know if, so John presented to everybody as well. But overall, there's a slight change, he has the same thing for us as a railroad, as a railroad offset as the highway department does, but it's a smaller number, it's about $8,000. That hits his overtime, because he shovels the train stations, right? So They do all the sidewalks and the train stations, the highway department does all the parking lots. So there's some money associated with the Parks Department there. And then he has monies in his outside grass treatments, each year those things are going up. He has problems with that, as far as year over year for the grass treatment and for seed and for fertilizer. They're going up 40% to 17% overall, just for the materials alone, right? And while you're trying to see if you can go back to an organic based one, those products are even higher. So,
But
we
you're
don't-
also predicated to follow the state statutes in terms of what chemicals or what treatment.
but we don't
So you're
treat
not-
very often, right? So we treat basically once a year, and it's a spot spray. And it's, we can't do the schools, and by the town council's mandate, we can't do any school, right? By state, it's 8th grade and below, by town mandate, it's 12th grade and below, so we can't do any of those. And then in our other properties, we spot spray basically once a year. It's a broadleaf, work, and it's basically a gentleman going out and actually spot spraying. So we don't do much on the pesticide side, it's all on an IPM basis, right? So you're more on the side of aerating and overseeding, right?
Mhm.
But again, when you aerate and overseed, you're using seeds going up by 40%, you got a problem. Your fertilizer going up by 17%, you have a problem. So that's the major drivers that he's had
Okay.
on his side. The next one is the nature center. This strictly is going by, we pay for their utilities.
Yeah.
So, and we looked at year over year, Josh and I looked at the utilities accounts across the board for every department. And year over year, we looked at what we had, what we were using, and we were able to then shade back a little bit. And get about a 2% change year over year, just based on what we've seen. What we had budgeted versus what we were using.
Okay. So the nature center has and we haven't touched upon the solar panels. Have you seen a reduction?
Problem with that is it's very difficult to see that change. Well, we've seen a change, we've had savings to it, but it's difficult to quantify those savings because the rates change, right? Our rate was set at 8 cents a kilowatt on the supply side, but the distribution side from Eversource, that changes. So when that changes, it's very difficult to see what an overall change, because you're not comparing year over year, right?
Okay.
We're not, well, we might get a drop in overall electrical usage because our solar. The
distribution is
distribution is changing.
The
right?
distribution is eating up the savings.
Exactly, and then this coming year, we just went under contract and we went from an 8 cents, eight point change to 11 point change for buying, right? So the supply side, so we went from 8 cents to 11 cents, which is a market change, but we were at a great rate for about 5 years. We had a great rate for 5 years, and the day that we bought at 11 cents, our neighbors bought at 16 and 17. So we actually bought it at a very much reduced rate comparatively speaking, but we're going to see an increase in our electricity by about 22% minimum. Year
Up
over year.
or down?
Yeah, well, because we're buying at 11, we're buying at 8.
So,
And the distribution is up, so
And the
you're like, you got
distribution.
the 11 for the usage, and then the distribution costs keep going up, so.
given that, should we continue to invest in solar panels?
We had, when our consultant was here, we did look at a lot of the areas that we had. A lot of them, the problem that we had was that the roofs, we weren't gonna get the lifespan on the roof, right? So the thought was that when we get to the point of replacing the roof, then we would take another look at the solar for that specific area. We're gonna replace the roof on the teen center, but you can't put panels on that thing, it's just way too steep, so we don't wanna try to do that. I don't wanna try that, we can try, but that's not really the thought, and that one there, the original thought was to put panels on top of the playhouse and feed the teen center, because it's a trick,
It's a flat roof.
well, it's flat roof and
It's a north south.
the Cinemalat pays for electricity at the theater, so we don't pay, so we would combine it to the meter at the teen center. You use it that way, and you can only have one set of panels on a meter. So you can't, you only have one, so that was the overall thought, was to not put it on the teen center. Even the consultant didn't think about putting it on the teen center, he thought about putting it on the playhouse. We have just enough amount of availability load wise on the roof to be able to manage the solar. We got about 7.5 pounds per square foot available, and solar is about 5 pounds, and we'll have about 2.5 pounds left with a factor of safety for snow loads. So,
are you considering it or not?
You know what, we should really relook at the teen center, because that's oriented the best. That's
Yeah.
an
it is,
east-west
but at the
orientation.
time, he was not, it came in and saying, no, but we can certainly look at it.
Cause that roof has to be redone too.
Yeah,
So
so-
it might be, we might wanna relook at that.
But I remember this when we lost a worker who fell off the roof and died. So I don't know if you don't wanna look at it from the point of view of safety. Or if you don't wanna look at it from the fact that it may just not give us the return we're looking for. And the expense to install and then replace it in 20
We could-
years.
Right, we can look at that, but like I said, at the time, it was, the thought was to use the playhouse to offset the teen center, not to put it on the teen center, but we can certainly look at it.
But with all these charges going back and forth, is there a savings to warrant the investment on putting solar?
That'll be part of the calculation, is to
Okay.
see exactly where we are, what our usage is versus what we're paying versus what the installation
Okay.
cost would be.
Yeah.
And it might come down to a PPA, right, so our purchase agreement where we don't own the panels like the school does, right? The
Right.
school doesn't own it, so
Right.
the school just gets a savings, so it might work out that way where we just get a PPA.
Just
from
let me
that.
know or let us know when that.
We'll let you know, yeah, we're not ready to go with to pull the trigger on the teen center yet,
Yeah.
so. When we get to that point, we'll take a look.
But you're looking at replacing the roof at the teen center, it has to be done before then.
That's correct,
Okay.
right,
Or concurrently, because that's how we solicited it, we did
Yeah.
it concurrently with the.
and that's the reason why we didn't, like, we were looking at the wastewater plant, wastewater plant's got a fantastic roof on it. It's a beautiful roof, and we could repair it for couple thousand dollars, and then get 5-7 more years out of it, and with a warranty. Or put solar on it, rip it off and put solar on it, we're like, no, let's run the roof out, and then put solar on it later, so. In about 5 years from now, we'll be looking at the large control building in the wastewater plant, at that point in time, we'll put it on, because we've got it at the highway department. Already, so to go across the street would be fine, but we didn't wanna do it at the time, because you wanna. The offset at that point in time, the savings in the roof, right, the fact that you don't have to put one in for 5 years, you lose that.
Yeah,
We didn't wanna have, we didn't wanna lose that investment. Which
Hey,
brings
can
us,
we go into public works? I have a quick question for parks, Tiger.
sure,
Are the turf fields included in the parks budget?
are you talking capital?
No, I'm talking about maintenance.
Yes, yeah,
And so what maintenance do we do? Because I've been looking into the maintenance and I'm wondering what maintenance do we do for the turf?
groomed and cleaned. And then additional crumb rubber would have to be installed if we need it,
Every
virgin.
I'm sorry, virgin crumb rubber, but virgin rubber, yeah. EPDM, would have to be included as well, is included as well. So they go out,
And then do we test for hardness for like potential concussion?
absolutely, it's an annual test for, the Gmax factor is tested annually. So that's mandatory, so yeah, but that's included in the parks budget.
Yeah. Does
We are doing all of that.
just the testing, is it the schools that do it?
I think John does it now because we're in charge of Dunning.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, we're, the Parks Department is.
Because I remember Jay used to do it.
Yeah,
Yeah, so,
Parks,
okay.
Parks Department has to,
Is
we're
there?
responsible for the stadium.
change it till there.
Yeah, but I know on the Board of Ed,
Oh,
we used to ask about this, and Jay used to do the testing, well, the company did it, but he would oversee the testing of Dunning. So you're saying now, John Howe,
Right, I believe that John,
contracts.
I believe that John does.
I'm not talking to Jay later today, I'm gonna ask.
You can ask, but the Parks Department is responsible for the
Yeah.
maintenance of Dunning now, so I
Yeah.
believe that.
But I know,
should-
Rita, to your question, it always was done.
Right.
That testing was always done.
Right, so far it's been positive. We haven't had an issue.
Yeah, I mean, and I have a personal stake in this since my son.
Yeah.
So the next one is just town utilities, and this is basically our hydrant service and our overhead lights and what we pay for sewer for the town buildings. So we pay a fee back to the town buildings, to the sewer department for town buildings. And then we also have to pay for our overhead lights. We lease them from Eversource. We've got 427 in town. And then we, in essence, lease our hydrants. We have 318 in town. And we pay a fee per hydrant, and then we pay a fee for the size of the main. So you pay a certain amount of fee for what's called the inch foot of main. And we have about 2.7 million inch feet of main in town that then services the hydrants. Because you have to have a larger water main in order to service the hydrant than you would to just service homes.
Right.
Right, so your home's only got like an inch or inch and 3/4 coming in, maybe a 2 inch max. But in the street, I got a 6 or an 8. So the thought, because the hydrant requires a 6 or an 8, so then because Aquarian has to make it that much larger to serve the hydrants, we pay a fee associated with it. So we pay not only to Aquarian, we pay to the first district.
Can I ask you a question? The sewer, the wastewater, separation between wastewater and stormwater. Is that a project that the town is looking into and totally?
We have a couple of cross connections that we're working on right now, that's our infiltration and inflow study.
Okay,
That's our I&I study, and we found probably, I think it was 27 locations where we had some issues. We're at present dye testing right now, so
Yeah.
dye testing is almost over, but yeah.
Oh, that green stuff that people are saying.
Yeah, so you can, we turned Mill Pond green, which is exactly what was supposed to happen, because you put it in a catch basin and it should wind up in your stream. But at the same time, one of our clarifiers turned green, so we know that we have a cross connection, so the I&I study is helping us determine that we have a couple, but. Overall, I would have to say 99%, we are considered separate systems, we are not a combined sewer system.
okay,
Other municipalities, New Haven specifically, has combined sewers, which is awful,
okay, so you're working on whatever 10% is left or less.
not even.
Okay, the work that you're thinking of doing or proposing on doing to the sewer plant. Is that going to increase capacity?
No, not at all.
That's guaranteed?
Guaranteed.
Guaranteed,
Guaranteed. Has
okay.
nothing to do with.
Christina, do you think
We're-
I
This,
not?
no, we're not going there.
Has nothing to
Topic
do-
over.
has nothing to
Hey,
do-
why did I miss that? I missed that when I was writing. What was guaranteed?
No, we'll talk about it offline, Rita.
Okay. I won't be putting him in the notes. No, I'm just kidding.
So but yeah, to get back to the I&I study, we're working through that, we gave a brief presentation to the Board of Finance. We'll have the report coming back in May, June, and then we'll give a larger report, and at that point in time, we could report to the town council and tell you where we are and how that drives the rest of the system.
Okay,
To tell you where it basically drives where
It's a
you.
redundancy, so in case one shuts down,
no, I understand all that, no, I got it,
you would not be running both at the same time.
correct,
Don't have to.
Right.
For the UV system, do not have to. We already make permit with one.
Right.
This gives us redundancy and that allows us to then longer service life, change back and forth, right? Turn one on, turn one off. We have that in other systems with our pumps, so we have redundant pumps, for the exact same reason. You don't wanna have just one pump and not have something as a backup, so you've got 2 pumps and they'll run, one might be your primary, and then you've got another one that fluctuates in and out, or you're alternating back and forth depending upon flows. This is the exact same thing. It's
okay,
a requirement for the TR 16 regulation from 2016, we have to change, we have to have redundancy in our disinfection system.
okay, I got
So
that,
that's on the capital side.
The tree service budget is flat at 539,000.
Last year, we had a bump, to try to see if we could get 12 bids in a year. We were able to get 12, so we're pretty good, so we're trying to do 1 a month. And then, but these are predominantly removals, so right now, the budget seems to be adequate for the department itself.
is there any preventative work done, not
There's-
tree trimming, but bug infestation issues?
So we have, well, some of the infestation issues are actually removals, right? So lantus trees, things like that, we want to remove tree of heaven, because that's a spotted lantern fly, they like that tree, right? So we've been doing a lot of removals of those, but then Bob also does some treatments of some of our we call it more notable trees, right? So our larger trees, the ones with their
The
special
older
trees
ones, yeah,
that we wanna keep.
Yeah.
He does he'll do some root injection, he'll do some other, measures
but
to
is
try to
that
stay.
included in the budget?
That's included in that. We have a tree, we have a maintenance line, $90,000 in the maintenance line, that's for that,
Okay,
and then the rest of it is basically removals.
okay, next,
Alright, so next is the wastewater plant. Sorry, this is just an analysis of where Bob was, but The next is the wastewater plant. So there's a $48,000 change year over year. We our sludge hauling contract, as I mentioned before, that's due, so that's the increase that we see most of it all. And then we're increasing our pipe cleaning numbers. We try to do 1/3 of the system a year. And that's the overall thought is that we're seeing a little bit of an increase in that, just based contractually. We're gonna see a difference, and we're also gonna try to hit a couple of areas that we have problems twice instead of once. So we have 1/3 of the system, annually, and then we try to hit some problem areas multiple times during the year. So we have what's called Restaurant Row, right? So Forest Street, Lower Main Street, things of that nature, where they've got grease traps, but at the same time, we wanna make sure that our areas are clean, so we don't have any issues. So we hit a couple of what we consider our problem areas more than once a year. And then we have a slight bump in our, Nick, you gotta go, yeah, sorry about apologies, and then we have a slight bump in our supplies line, but that's, thank you. That's for our chemicals, just to help us continue to make permit. So the rest of it gets into capital. There's been, I did not include the changes in the capital only because they happened over the past two nights, Tuesday, Thursday, but there's been a good change or a market change in the capital overall. But we can go
Go to the big ticket items.
So the big ticket items overall,
Is this updated or no?
this is not updated, but I can tell you, it's basically, this one stayed the same, however, the parking lot improvements is $850,000 is all being handled under separate funds. So 300,000 of it will come out of the pool fund because it's for the pool, parking lot. There's $250,000 that's gonna come out of the railroad fund because it's for the railroad, the North Railroad lot right at the station that you pull into, right? We did the sidewalks, we did the 9/11 memorial, now we're gonna do the pavement. We wanted to do the pavement last year, but the state wouldn't allow us to go in and pave because they had to shut down and they were utilizing that as a staging area. And then we have $300,000 to do the lumberyard lot, but the lumberyard lot is considered a part of the parking fund. So while there's $850,000 of improvements, they're covered underneath the three funds.
So we'll draw down that fund
So,
by 300
right.
Okay,
So that 850 is all gone?
It's not gone, you have to approve it or else.
Right.
Cause you have to.
No, I know, but
It's not gonna be bonded, it's not new bonding that would go, so it'll come out of the funds, so you don't have to add any more bonding to.
got it.
can you go back one, the late,
No.
what is it?
Yeah,
I think you got it covered.
No, but I wanted to ask you, what was the cost of putting the bridge on Pontus Ridge up north of Clear?
Approximately 1.2 million.
1.2?
1.2, yeah.
So why wouldn't we consider doing that and eliminating the culvert but bridging it over?
It's a different sub, right now, this $2 million is just a flood number, but also the bridge at Bonus. We didn't take the bridge out, so while we took the superstructure out, the abutments stayed the same, so all we did was just a little modification to the bridge seats. This one, the walls are all stone, this
And
one
that
has,
was prefab. That bridge.
the abutments were pre-cast,
Right.
cast in place, but had been there already, we didn't touch those. We put in new slabs over the top of it,
Okay,
right? This one here, the abutments are bad, they're failing, so I have to take
They're
the whole
actually
bridge out. So it's not just taking the superstructure off, it's actually taking the whole bridge out and replacing it all. So in essence, we're actually looking at putting in a box culvert instead of building a bridge. Right now, it's a bridge,
right,
it's stone walls and a concrete slab. The stone walls are bad, the slab is bad, I'm looking at putting in a culvert if I can, if I can't, I've gotta build basically a mini bridge. That's the reason and the difference in cost, because I'm not just taking the top off. Cause the whole thing has to come out. The bonus one, I just took the top off of it and then redid the guide rail and the wing walls and things like that, everything you could see. But the below ground, we didn't touch. Below ground was actually in very good shape, so we didn't have to touch it at all.
it just seems like for the size of it, and I understand the.
Doesn't matter on once we get out the span length,
Yeah, it's
understand what you mean.
What,
From the water level and where it's meeting the I guess it's a bridge now instead of a culvert.
It's, we call it a culvert, but it's
Yeah.
really a bridge,
Okay.
because it doesn't
But
have
you can
cross.
see the erosion of the side wall.
If you look like here,
Yeah, I know, it's not pretty.
well, there, you know, so
Oh, yeah.
we have problems on
Look
both
at the
sides.
erosion.
This is the,
Looks like limestone.
Yeah,
well, yeah,
Wow,
well,
that's
so-
a
I
little
know, I like
scary.
to drive over there, I said.
I'm not going over that
buses
again.
Going over that, I literally, my first comment during the budget was like, we have buses going over that road.
Ah, yikes.
but that's the problem, so I've got scour underneath the whole thing, and then I'm missing stones, I'm starting, you know, the whole thing is starting to fail, right? So like, that's why I can't utilize what's there, I gotta take off what's there.
Are you putting signs to
It's not
limit the
load-
weight?
It's not load restricted at present, just, you know, I haven't been load restricted yet. You know, it might become load restricted as we get further into the design and get further into the analysis, but I don't have a load restriction as of yet.
How wide is it?
It's only about 6 feet wide at best. Underneath, try to find the photo. That's it right there, about 6 feet or so. But it's, if you look, it's all field stone, right? It's all field stone, so that's gotta all come out. I can't build on that. We shouldn't build on that. We shouldn't spend $1 million putting a top on this thing.
Is that a
Nothing
sewer
is.
line?
That's a water. That's an aquarium water line. At present, which will have to be replaced, and when we do it.
Oh, the thing up in the
Yeah,
back,
Now,
Yeah.
wow,
That water line will go underneath the water, so you won't see it anymore. We're gonna take that out, aquarium actually has water to both sides of it. ready.
pipes,
Pipes,
ready?
yeah, ready, yeah, they're
Okay.
new, when they laid it out, they already laid out Lakeview, so it's all set, and all we have to
Okay.
do is then drop it down and underneath, so the moment we take this culvert out, they'll come in, put it underneath the bridge, and
Section.
we'll build a bridge on top of it, yeah, we've already talked to them about that.
I'm just wondering if a steel structure on either end rather than masonry and
Well, that's part of what the analysis will be, right, so when we ask,
a granite top.
we ask the contractor, we ask the engineer to come in, he gives us 3 options. You know, we always ask for 3 options originally, you know, three ways to take the bridge.
Mhm.
And one will be a culvert, one will be a bridge, you know, or 2 would be a bridge, 1 will be a culvert of different materials. At that point in time, they'll give us a cost analysis
Mhm.
of it, how long it'll take to build, how long the road will have to be out of service, and then we'll take into consideration all those things.
When is that happening?
I need the monies associated with it to be able to get the contract with the engineer, so as the moment that the monies drop in May or June, we'll get the engineer on board.
Okay.
Alright, so then that was the only highlight on capital.
The ADA improvement, is that part of the Department of Justice complaint?
Yes, yes.
Only 250 or
I had
500?
500 from before, I got 250 in this year's budget, so I got 500 from before. Last
Can
year,
you
200.
can you identify what locations you're doing?
Not at present. I can, maybe a month or 2. I can tell you what will happen. But right now I have the settlement on my desk that I have to review. Then the moment that we have the settlement and it's inked, then it becomes, then I can talk further. Present.
Why?
Because it's part of the negotiation, so I can't.
Okay, can we go into executive session?
You can, I think, I have to
Okay.
make that, yeah, but we're, you know, like I said, we're very close to the final determination, I'm just wait for the final determination, the moment it's finally determined, then the document itself is public. Right now, it's not a public
I
document,
understand that, but as a member of the legislative body
I have no
and
problem,
having appropriation,
I have no problem with it, you
okay,
know, but
all right, let's move on.
so, well, this just gets into the parking lots and stuff, so we'll go to town buildings itself, if you wanna take a look at the police department at any time, just let me know, I walk through it every Wednesday morning at 8 o'clock, it's a standing invitation for anybody. Tiana's already come, she'll come again, and if you want to, just let me know, and then we'll get you a hard hat, safety glasses, boots, and we'll take a walk through. Right now, the back of the building is off, they're putting foundations on it. So they're digging the foundations at present. The interior is pretty much gutted and they're putting now the framing in. So this whole portion here, this whole bricks portion of the structure is gone. And where the backhoe is, they're actually setting their footings, their foundations, and then they'll work through the rest of the back of the property, setting those in place. And then inside is completely gutted. This is the first floor looking across from what was the old chief's office through the lobby
Mhm.
into the training room.
And when do you do this, Tiger, that we can come along? Sorry.
Wednesday mornings at 8 o'clock.
Okay, thanks.
Just let me know your comments, so I know you wanna come, and then
You'll bring me a hard hat?
they have them there, yeah, we'll outfit you.
The elevator is being reused.
The elevator's being reused,
Okay.
yeah, it was determined that it could be reused. So right now, it's just strictly, like I said, everything's pretty much out of the building and they're starting to frame. The third floor is almost fully framed out, so where the offices are for the chief and the assistant chief and the captain and the assistant are all put in.
Is EMS now completely cut off from the police
They're
station?
severed, yeah, not everything, we're the last couple of things left as far as IT. You
Okay,
know, and then sewer will go, they're working on, that's it, but they're on their own heating system. Their generator, is coming, they're all set.
Okay.
So they'll be, as the construction progresses, they'll be completely severed,
okay,
which is a good thing. So then here, the changes that we have are that we took out the HVAC from the Waving House at $4 million. So that's gone,
was that a budget number or a hard number?
that was a budget number. We, that came from we had an engineer come in and design the new system, and then we asked him to do a cost analysis and give us what he felt would be the number. And that was the number he gave us at present, so we deferred that to next year and beyond. The visitor center, itself, the Audubon House, the reconstruction of the Audubon House. We'll be removing the Audubon House, so we left $50,000 in there for just to knock the building down and take the slab out and leave it or reconstruct it and make it natural. And then the greenhouse ramp removal, that's been reduced to $50,000 because we're just gonna take the ramp down. We do not need to put a new staircase up because the second floor is strictly for staff. There's an additional means of egress, and occupancy load doesn't require this outside staircase.
But you're not doing the reconstruction of the Audubon House? You
No,
don't
we're
stay
Yeah,
on
that's
that?
going away, it's just knocking down.
It's not, we just left 50 in there.
And we only left, and the same thing with the ramp removal, we reduced that because the nature center really wants to redo that greenhouse and, so we were talking about just make it so nobody can walk upstairs,
Right,
we don't need it.
it's a safety concern.
They do want it, they do have a fundraising effort that they wanna do to redo that greenhouse.
I hope they do it from bottom up.
Yeah, well, that's
Whatever they-
a conversation.
That is
That's-
amazing. Okay,
So those are the changes on the town building side, the market changes, so it went down by $4,370,000.
the utility van purchased for 65,000, that was the one for Town Hall?
No,
I'm sorry, how much did it go down by?
$4,370,000. The utility van purchases for the gentleman that we spoke of, Mike Carpenter, our carpenter.
Okay,
Right now, he's working out of a pickup truck.
right,
But we
no, I
like
know that, yeah.
Sorry.
What happened? Oh, come
You're
on,
not right.
yeah,
When it does, just let me know. So the highway department, there was no changes, 565,000 for the new, for everything you see here. We did add in, the item of cemetery maintenance for capital on this as well, so it's an additional 25,000. That's for Leo, he's doing a very nice job with some, volunteers and documenting each cemetery and the needs of each cemetery, so how much stone walls need to be fixed, how many headstones need to be repaired.
is this going to be an annual?
Should be an
allocation?
annual allocation, until we work our way out of it, until we work our way out of the cemeteries that we're maintaining, so they're back to a good condition. I can't tell you how long it's
No, I know.
I'm waiting for his analysis to come in, and then I can figure out a cost overall, and then figure out how long it's gonna take. So then. Sorry, the transfer station, there's no change to the transfer station. It's a replacement of our loader from 1983 and repairing the container area back. Then the larger change was in the parks. So in the parks, there's no change on the utility vehicles or on the parks equipment side. On the infrastructure side, the Dunning Stadium Phase 2 has been deferred 1 year. So that $2 million has been pushed out to the next year, and then everything will push out 1 more year accordingly. Capo was approved at $2 million. So there's a $2.5 million change on this side.
Is the Wayman Conservancy project a line item of 300,000 that's carried over year by year?
Yes.
Well, we give them $300,000 each year, yeah. So last year was the service entrance. And
We don't give it to them, we allocate it and then
we
give the
allocate,
department.
correct,
Okay.
they don't spend it, they have to spend it through us, so
Okay.
the expenditures have to come through the department. We just don't, it's usually an offset, 50-50 share. So this is looking towards, they have,
There's a lot of projects.
there's a lot of projects, I can't remember if they came to the council yet or not.
No,
Yeah,
I think
they-
Board
they-
of Finance.
Yeah,
Right, they're coming to the council.
yeah, they will during your
Right.
meeting.
Yeah.
They'll do the same thing that they did with this.
So they have a series of projects that they have spelled out for the coming years. So Steve Beschenstein will do a nice presentation
Yeah.
and tell you exactly where he's at. But these monies are out or to help offset those costs.
And Capo is also dependent on money in the bank, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, see how I won't bring a contract to her and she can't sign it anyways, without the monies in the bank, so.
But I'm gonna assure that one is very well funded. Like, they're not worried about that one at all. From a funding standpoint.
And then if we get off the parks, get to, sorry. The nature center, again, same exact thing I just talked about, so it's not double counted, I just put the nature center here to take a look, but these were the changes at the nature center we talked about. So it's not a reconstruction, it's removal, and it's a ramp removal, both for 50.
I just wanna say this so that you can understand where I'm coming from on this. When the nature center requested the roof change, it was, the roof redone in the Audubon house,
Okay,
it was denied. And we're spending more taking down the building that could have been saved because we chose not to do the roof.
But this was a project from how long ago that they asked? for?
Within, I think it was last year or the year before, they
We
came
asked-
in and
we
they
asked
asked for it.
we asked for 3 years.
35,000, I think was the roof,
No,
or less.
no, we came in, it was $300,000, wasn't for the roof. At the time that they wanted to start doing something, it was 300,000 to reconstruct the building. It wasn't just to do the roof, no. It was 300 grand. And that number changed to 350 this year, but it was 300 grand for 2 years in a row. And it got denied both times.
Quite frankly, it would- I don't know about, like, I was asking if it was historic, I mean, it's just a
No.
build, yeah, so I mean, my thing is, like, if they wanted down the road. Build something new, like their request was to rebuild an old building, and I'm like, that's gonna cost us $1 gazillion to rebuild a little building that is gonna hold a two.
Look, from a,
two-story.
from a choice point
Right.
of view, I'm glad that it'll be gone because it was an eyesore,
Yeah.
period.
Yeah.
And it opens up
Yeah.
the view of the visitor center,
Yeah.
but the point is that it happened with the Board of Ed building at Saks. The Board of Finance at times makes a decision based on numbers and not on the
Oh,
total exposure. And I'm trying to rein that in and make people more aware of that, you can't just base it on numbers.
Mm.
That's my whole point. So when somebody says, we have too many buildings, and I did the chart breakdown as to where the buildings belong, tell me which one you're gonna cut out. I mean, it's a ridiculous question when you look at it from that standpoint. The town has never designed a town-wide master plan where you created buildings. They basically used what they had here and there, and there's a problem with the way in which the Board of Finance processes. some of the requests for things that need to be done. What if they said to the culvert, no, we're gonna put it off another 2
Yeah.
years, you know, it's
Well,
such.
I would scream, because I literally said there's school buses that go over that and it's eroding from, I mean, that was in the Board of Selectmen.
There are trucks going
I
to the
know.
transfer station.
That one I said take my entire budget, but
Yeah.
leave the bridge.
Yeah.
If you're gonna come, just take everything and leave me. the
That and
bridge.
the UV lights are his like hot buttons this year. It's like, we
Don't
don't
say
want
it.
sewage going into the river and we don't want untreated sewage going.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that leaves us with the wastewater plant itself. So this request now is actually for the UV replacement is at $4 million. We had put in a number of 6.5. Our engineer had given us a number at the time when we asked back in October, just back of the envelope, he said 4.5 to 6.5. I put in 6.5 because I didn't want to be short on it, so put in the 6.5. He's had further time to look at it. He came down to a $5 million number, which is actually in between 4.5 and 6.5. So he came down to a $5 million number. But we already have $1 million that's already allocated toward the project, so it's a $4 million net. So that 6.5 went down to 4. So
So you're looking to, as a backup, plan to put in, the system would be a backup plan. But what has advanced in the industry that could replace what we have there, without removing what's there, but making it so that it's.
Oh, there's
more
a, you should
efficient?
watch, because AECom presented to the Board of Finance
Tuesday night.
Tuesday night, and there's a presentation on that system. So he was on remotely, and there's a whole presentation
Okay,
just on this UV light thing. I would urge you to watch it. But basically, we had a cutting edge system when we put it in.
yeah,
So there's some modifications that we will be doing in the new system, but watch it, because it'll explain it
okay,
really well.
We're way,
And what is that? What are we watching?
It's the Board of Finance meeting from, you think it's Tuesday
it
night?
was Tuesday night.
Tuesday night, there's a video like a representative from AECom was online.
Was that toward the beginning? Because I missed the beginning.
Yes, it was at the beginning, it was at the very beginning.
that's why I missed it.
Yeah, it was at the very beginning,
Yeah, he was on about right up to the, right up,
and it wasn't a long presentation, so,
yeah, it's about 7 o'clock-ish.
and there's all kinds of pictures and slides and stuff.
Yeah, Carl did a nice job.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, so we, like, to be honest, when we were cutting edge at the time, 24 years ago. So this, while that technology has only gotten better, so
Yeah.
what we're gonna see is, we're actually gonna see an energy reduction
Yes,
from it.
yes,
But the system itself, we were designed around a UV disinfection system, so we necessarily we don't wanna go back into what's called a chlorination,
No,
dechlorination,
no.
right? We don't wanna be in that.
yeah,
So that's actually going backwards, and that would probably cost us more money, because we would need another building in order to house it. But we need to have redundancy, reliability or redundancy, however you wanna call it. So we have to have 2 units instead of 1. And right now we have 1, and the requirements or the regulations show that you need 2. And that's the reason for the change overall.
what happened to the building, where, the swap shop is? Is that wasn't appropriated, is it in the budget to take it down and build a new building?
No, it's not. The whole building itself, no, so we have monies in the budget to analyze the area, see
Okay,
exactly how much it's gonna cost, that's what the
Okay.
Board of Finance gave us. Last year, to take a look at that's the old incinerator building, right?
Right.
So, and the incinerator building next to it, the old incinerator building, because that's where the animal control building is. To look at both of those to see exactly what we could do to take them down and then reutilize the area. Specifically for a salt dome, salt shed, a animal control building, a proper swap shop, and then other recycling things that we might want to do, right? You know, we're a little hindered on space, so if I wanted to expand our food composting, I got a little bit of problems with space, I got a little
Yeah.
problem with paint. I wanted to actually have where you could bring your paint, not just once a year,
right,
but throughout the year. I have a problem with space, so.
batteries, equipment.
There are a lot of things that I would like to do to that area to expand the amount of recycling that we have, but we're limited by the amount of space. So if I can get those buildings out of the way, we'll have a lot of space back.
I'm assuming that the computers and the batteries are not single stream, that those are separately.
Those are separate, yeah, we have an entire electric recycling.
You guys, I'm so sorry, I have to run.
All right, thanks, Rita.
I canceled one meeting, but I can't cancel the other.
It's the, but
Thank
yeah,
you.
Bye, have a good weekend.
You
there's-
too. Thanks, Tiger.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rita.
Associated with it, but yeah, we're presently looking at that to see exactly what needs to happen,
Okay,
you know, and how much money it would cost to dismantle those buildings and then repurpose the area. It's a large area, you know, that we.
dismantle, are they prefab buildings?
No, they were built in place, but you know, dismantle, just
Oh,
take them down,
demolition,
right, just,
okay.
yeah, demolish. Yeah, so we're looking at that, cause it's a very large project, very large project, so we'll see how that.
Money wise,
Yes,
how large?
we're at present, we're looking at $4.5 to $5 million just to take everything down.
2-story,
Take everything down.
yes,
Yeah, yeah.
lower and up,
I
okay.
don't know what the best avenue is at present, whether we just knock it all down as the highway department, rebuild the highway department, or try
Oh,
to
it's
pull it
the
off.
old incinerator.
Yeah.
Try to pull it off the highway department, right now it's on top of the highway department, so you either gotta pull it off of it.
Oh,
Or
that's
just
what's
knock it down.
happening, I see,
Yeah, if you look, if you
yes,
drive there, you can see that the building oversits about the highway department, so. If I
structurally,
structurally, yeah, they're actually integrated. Yeah, so in order to wanna get, that's the problem, so see exactly how to pull one building off the other without ruining the other building.
okay,
Done?
all right,
Alright.
motion to adjourn.
So over to you.
Yes.
That's an easy one.
All right, have a good weekend.
Bye.
I'm gone next week, so I'll miss some of your budget meeting, but I'll be back for the weekend.
I don't know, have you accrued time yet? Bye, have a good time.
That's a good, thank you.
Okay, let me close it off
Oh, it's,
and can I just
Johnny,
go
you just-
in?
you just ended, it'll just